Yeah.
card.
Let's just go back to this
Yeah,
treatment and what it actually, where it's from and what it
yeah,
actually does. I guess on more the science behind it, which I'm sure you understand pretty well.
yeah. Okay, so,
Be interested.
um, oh yeah, it's a great story actually. This Stella Ganglion block is a procedure that's been done for over 100 years for pain management, and
Yeah.
and they found that if they injected into certain areas of this part of the neck, that it affected especially the upper body and really reduced pain. And many
Mhm.
years go by, and this injection has been used for, the full 100 years. About
Mhm.
20 years ago, a doctor was using it, and an anaesthetist was using the block for pain, and he noticed that it was helping people that had two conditions. One was menopausal conditions,
Yes.
and the other one was PTSD sufferers. And
Mhm.
they were reporting their symptoms like remarkably lessened or gone totally when they were
Wow.
having this pain block. And it
Yeah.
was giving their other symptoms of other conditions benefits. So he started
Yeah.
studying, he started doing research into using it as a PTSD treatment. And what they discovered is when our bodies hit fight and flight, it's our amygdala in our brain that sends chemicals through our body so that we can fight the tigers or we
Yeah.
can flee from the tigers. And in PTSD, the the chemicals that get shot to this set of ganglions here, they they get a chemical overload, and the switch in them gets stuck on, and it's
Yeah.
like the chemicals are just stuck there
So
and
you're
you're in this.
constantly in that fight or flight.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
So the injection is about going in and using an anesthetic in a specific area of the spine. So mine was C4, C6, and using an anesthetic to numb that area of the brain that is where the catchment of the amygdala goes down with the chemicals, give it
Yeah.
a rest, anesthetize it for about 20 minutes,
Yeah.
and then it slowly wakes up. And
Yeah.
all the extra stuff that has been going on just seems to disintegrate away,
Yes.
and you'll reset. So yeah, there's been a lot of studies on it now, and a lot of people have enjoyed the benefits of it. And I was desperate, and I needed to try something to help my
And
post-traumatic stress. Yeah,
absolutely. And I think we should go deeper into the post-traumatic stress in a minute. But a question I've got for you quickly
yeah,
is, like, as you know, I've been through a lot in the last couple of years.
yes,
And I mean, I guess all the stress, all the anxiety, I was constantly in that heightened fight and flight, as you're well aware.
yes.
Does this just work with PTSD or does it work with
No.
severe anxiety and trauma?
Okay, this is a brilliant question. A brilliant question. So I'm not good with this word, but there's when the amygdala is sending all those chemicals through when you've lost your children and and lies are being told and all this intense, desperate stress is going on when you're dealing with child loss. The the load that you're sending through your body is too much for too long. When we're in
Absolutely.
fight and flight, we're only meant to be in it for about 90 seconds. Either we kill or we're killed. Yeah, we get
And that was the
away.
constant state I was in
But when
for a
you're
long
stuck
time.
in it for 12 months,
Yep.
18 months, every time you see someone with that color hair, you're flung into it straight away. That means that your alarm system is injured. It's
Oh,
it's
yeah.
the anesthetic load of the chemical that you've been putting this part of your stellar ganglion network through is injured now, and that's what the block is meant to reset. So, great question.
Yeah, interesting. No, that's good. And I guess I've learned to regulate myself through speaking to therapists, a lot of
Yes.
time talking to you. And I still have, I mean, there were a few weeks back where I actually had that meltdown and I was in that state for a full week. So,
Yes.
as you well know. So, yeah.
Yeah, and that's why those soothing techniques that we learn, square breathing and
Mm,
calling someone who really has our heart and our back,
right.
and trying to share with them. We've got to soothe ourselves, because when that chemical system gets hijacked, it hijacks our body, and
Yeah.
we've got to soothe it as soon as we possibly can. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That makes sense. And now I think we should sort of go back and discuss we've gone through the block and we've gone through a few other things. Let's go back and actually discuss the PTSD and how
Yeah.
it affected you. I don't know how far you want to go back, but I think maybe we should start with how it affected your life.
Yeah. I was bullied in my workplace, and I was having nightmares. They're called night terrors, where you wake up screaming and yelling and often sweating and very frightened. So I was having night terrors for um, about 3 years solid.
Mm,
um, and now more irregularly. They're not as common, but when I have a flare up, they come back. So
mm,
night terrors are really bad.
mm.
Um, the probably the worst thing that happened to me was I lost my entire identity, because I lost my job.
Yeah,
I couldn't go to work, um, and I crumbled.
yeah.
Yeah, and there wasn't support to get through this. I'm not sure I can keep talking about that.
No,
It's
that's all right.
interesting because
We
I
can touch
feel
on that
this.
when you're ready.
Yeah, great. Thanks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, it was a long time, and yeah,
It was a long time.
it was a
I
very
think the
long time.
worst. I think the worst thing of recent years for me has been a cruel amount of isolation.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I think that's more common than we know. I think a
Yeah.
lot of people isolate themselves. I did it very physically and socially.
Yeah.
Some people do it, they might see people all day, but they never
Yeah.
let anyone in. They
Yeah.
isolate
Yeah.
their pain, or they isolate their rage. Rage isn't sexy. It's not nice. When I used to feel homicidal, it's
Yes.
not nice to own that part of you, if that's or suicidal. It's
Yeah.
not nice.
Absolutely.
um
Absolutely.
so
So,
yeah.
and an interesting something you brought up about the block. Now, I'm going to say a couple of things, and please tell me to stop. You
Yeah.
mentioned your workplace bullying, and you don't have to speak on this because I know you're not comfortable. But your trauma just doesn't just come from there. There's also
Oh,
childhood trauma. But the reason I'm going to bringing this up is the Stella Ganglion block. You said something very interesting with me. We'll go to that when you're ready, and I
yeah,
understand at the moment you're not.
yeah,
You said you got it in one side of your neck.
yeah,
Now, can you explain the two injections? So you've had one.
yeah. No, I've had two inject. I've
Yep.
had
I'm
sorry
sorry.
two. I've had two sites.